What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and today we're taking a look at the Civivi Ki-V. This is a small double detent slip joint designed by Ostap Hel, whose name pops up quite a bit on the channel recently, but not intentional. He works with a lot of companies, and it just shows how prominent of a knife designer he is. Designs quite a few different designs, and you can pick this one up for around $45. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description of the video if you're interested in checking it out. There is a larger version available as well. If this one's just a little bit small for you at only 4 inches in overall length, that one's called the Ki-V Plus. I don't have that one to compare it to, but again, if you prefer a little bit larger, I think that's a great option. Now, for me, I think the size of this one is part of the charm, which is why I went with the smaller version in the first place. So again, 4 inches in overall length. It is a double detent, which if you're not familiar, is a type of slip joint, but we don't have a back spring like you normally would with a slip joint. Instead, it utilizes the second detent. Most people are familiar with the detent that keeps the knife in the closed position. You see it quite a bit on locking knives, and once you break past that detent, you're able to open the blade. And so that's what really kind of makes or breaks the action on a lot of knives. So you want it dialed in so that you get a super snappy action. You don't want it too light where you get these kind of half openings because you're not able to build up enough of that pressure before it breaks the detent, or too heavy where it's just difficult to open in general. When it's just right, you get that nice snappy action like that, and so really satisfying to open. But there's a second detent on this knife, and that's when it gets to this open position, and you can even hear an audible click when it gets into that second detent. And so it's got a nice snappy audible click so you know that you're fully deployed there, which is really nice and very satisfying. But it doesn't have a back spring like your typical slip joint. It doesn't have a lock like your regular locking knives. And so a light amount of pressure breaks through that detent and you can start closing this blade. Now, because of the design of the blade, you have a nice flat spot right here that if it does start closing on your hand, it's really not that big of a deal. Although if it does kind of get the corner of you, you might get a small cut, but it's not going to be anything too serious. But you do want to keep that in mind when you're utilizing it. If you're putting a lot of pressure towards the tip of that blade, once you cut through whatever you're cutting through, that detent is going to break, and because you have a lot of pressure, you'll see it kind of snaps into that closed position. There isn't a half stop, it just kind of naturally stops there for the most part. But if your fingers are there, you could be in for a little bit of a bad day. So when you're utilizing it, I like to stay back here because of the design of this one. You can put as much pressure as you want right here, and you can see I'm not breaking through that detent no matter how hard I press with my thumb. I know there's no visual way to show that I'm pressing hard with my thumb, but I am pressing down as hard as I can, and that blade isn't going anywhere. Versus if I were up here and I started doing the same thing, it just takes a light amount of pressure. So definitely keep that in mind when utilizing this knife. 2.5 inches on the handle, which isn't a lot, but I am able to get a full 2-finger grip on there with my thumb in that placement that I mentioned earlier that doesn't deploy the blade. And so you can pinch down pretty tightly and have a nice secure grip that's not going anywhere. It feels ultra secure even though my pinky and my ring finger are not on there. So you do get a really nice comfortable ergos out of that 2-finger grip. Now in terms of the blade, only 1.5 inches, we get 9CR13 MOV, nice stonewash on there with a flat grind. And the blade shape on here is very reminiscent of a Japanese kiridashi. In fact, if I had to guess, I would guess that's the inspiration behind this knife, although I didn't see anything that states that outright in the marketing. It's named the Ki-V, so the start of kiridashi, so pretty good guess there. I think that this is based off of a kiridashi, and Japanese kiridashis are used as utility knives, so a lot of opening packages, you can use them in the garden, and a lot of the stuff that you'd use a utility knife for. So outside of that standard grip that I mentioned earlier, this one does really well with the pinch grip because you don't even have to have your hands on the handle. In fact, this one with the shorter handle than the Ki-V Plus allows you to put that handle right into the meat of your hands and not have any fingers on it at all. And you can get these super shallow utility cuts. Say you're opening a package, you don't want to cut too deeply into it. You can control exactly how deep you cut and get a nice secure grip, especially because again, that handle is pushing into the meat of my hand and really locking it into place. And so I find this grip really comfortable and easy to use as well. Now, only weighs 1.4 ounces, so ultra lightweight. Have G10 on the scales, so a couple different options. This is a natural G10. Sometimes you'll see it called Jade G10 as well, but natural G10, there's a black. I think I've seen a white G10 version as well. So a couple different options. We have Civivi on the pivot, pretty clean looking design overall. We also have a right hand tip up pocket clip. It's perfectly fine. This is a perfect either desk knife or fifth pocket secondary knife. Obviously this isn't going to be your main EDC knife. If you typically EDC a knife, this is going to be on the small side. It doesn't have the locking mechanism. You might want to go with a small or mid-size folder, or even a small fixie would be a better option. But for a secondary knife, I think this one's really great. And again, like a desk type knife, I think is also really great, or workbench type knife. And then I do think that the pocket clip is reversible. I haven't tried it out, but you can see the placement of those screws is identical to the body screws on the other side. So I would imagine you can just swap those. We do have some liners in there that are completely nested, so you don't see those visually. And I think just a fun overall knife, $45. I didn't pay $45 for it. I got this one during a Blade HQ sale a while back, and so I don't remember the exact price of it, but I know I got it at a pretty decent discount. So they do occasionally go on sale, although when I looked on Blade HQ before filming this, it was $53. Amazon has it at $45, so get next day shipping there as well. If you have Prime, definitely the way to go, but I will link to both options so you can check them out and see which one's cheaper at the time, since I did get this cheaper on Blade HQ when I purchased it. Let me know what you think of this one down in the comments below. I think just a fun little knife. I will say, as far as double detent slip joints, it's not my favorite. That probably goes to either the Kaiser Mini Bay or the Serge Panchenko Bean, but this one's definitely in the conversation. If I didn't have that one, I think I'd be even more excited about this one. It's a very, very solid knife overall, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who prefer this over the two that I just mentioned. So again, would love to hear your thoughts on it though down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, or checking out some of my other content, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.